Captain Marcus Hale's lungs burned as he staggered across the rust-colored sands of Veskar II. His uniform was torn, and each step sent fresh pain through his left side. All around him, the remnants of his squad lay silent beneath the shifting dunes. He forced himself not to look too closely. The day before they had been 7 strong. Now he was the only one left. He dragged himself forward, every movement a battle against exhaustion and shock. The heat pressed down on him, making the world glare in red and gold. Wind-blown grit filled his mouth whenever he tried to speak. He tried to call out for help, but all that escaped was a soft, croaking whisper. His voice felt strange to his own ears, as if it belonged to someone very far away. Marcus remembered the mission's orders: push the enemy back, hold the line, protect the outpost. They had come here thinking the planet was nearly empty, just a remote frontier world. Instead, they found an enemy force unlike anything they had faced before. They were fast, silent, and merciless. In the chaos, his men had fallen one by one. He had fired until his rifle clicked empty, then fought with his bare hands until a blade struck him down. A sudden gust of sand forced him to shield his eyes. When the wind died, the desert lay still. Not a creature stirred. Even the dim light of the distant suns seemed to hesitate. Marcus pressed his hand to the sand and felt it shift in tiny waves. He knew he could not stay here. The enemy would return. He had to move, to find higher ground, to find safety, or at least die trying. With effort, he rolled onto his stomach and crawled toward a low ridge in the distance. Pain shot through his body with every motion, but he kept going. He counted his breaths: 1, 2, 3. He told himself that each breath was a promise to keep fighting. His uniform's insignia, a faded eagle clutching an olive branch, was caked in blood and sand. It reminded him of home, of the people waiting for him who believed in his strength and courage. When he reached the base of the ridge, he paused. The ground here was firmer, and he managed to pull himself up until he was leaning against a smooth, stone-like outcrop. He pressed his back to it, closed his eyes, and tried to steady his pounding heart. His vision swam, and he felt the world tilt. For a moment he thought he heard laughter, distant, mocking. Then the wind shifted and the noise vanished. Marcus forced his eyes open. The sky was streaked with clouds of orange dust. 2 small suns hovered near the horizon, their light stretching long shadows across the dunes. He tried to push himself upright, but his legs refused. They trembled beneath him, powerless. He realized with a cold certainty that if help did not come soon, he would not last through the night. He searched his pockets for a distress beacon. His fingers found only empty pouches and scraps of torn gear. The beacon had been lost when he fell. He knew his chances of rescue were slim. The desert was vast and his signal would go out long before it reached friendly ears. A dull hopelessness crept into his mind, one that threatened to drag him under. Then, as if the planet itself breathed, tiny lights appeared on the sands before him. At first, they were no larger than sparks from a fire. They flickered and pulsed, in patterns too steady to be random. Marcus squinted, trying to focus. The lights moved in deliberate lines, tracing shapes in the sand. He blinked hard, convinced he was imagining things in his fevered state. But the lights grew brighter. They glowed in colors he had never seen, pale blues and soft greens that cut through the heat haze. Small footprints, each outlined in glowing light, led directly toward him. They were too small to be human. The prints were arranged in a zigzag pattern as though whomever or whatever had made them walked with careful, almost elegant steps. Heart pounding, Marcus reached for his sidearm. He leveled it at the nearest glowing footprint. His hands shook so badly that the weapon wobbled. He forced himself to breathe slowly. Whoever was out here could be friendly, or they could be worse than the soldiers who had ambushed his squad. He tightened his grip, ready to fire at a moment's notice. The footprint stopped a few meters away. Marcus watched in tense silence as the glow pulsed 3 times, then faded. For a heartbeat, nothing moved. Then a shape emerged from the dim light, a slender figure stepping onto the ridge. It stood tall, with skin that shimmered like moonlit glass. Long limbs moved with quiet grace, and eyes that glowed faintly blue fixed on Marcus. He raised his pistol. His finger hovered over the trigger, but he did not fire. His training told him to hold until verified hostile. The figure tilted its head as if curious. A language Marcus did not know slid from its lips, soft and musical. For the first time since the battle, Marcus felt something like hope stir in his chest. He did not yet know if this stranger came as friend or foe, but he knew one thing: he was no longer alone. The desert wind sighed around them. Under the twin suns of Veskar II, man and alien stood facing each other at the edge of endless dunes, each waiting for the other to make the next move. Captain Marcus Hale's mind hovered at the edge of darkness as distant shapes and muted lights drifted through his fevered dreams. He felt a soft pressure under his shoulder, as if someone had laid a cool hand on him. Every breath was a struggle, and he tasted grit and metal on his tongue. In the haze between waking and sleep, he sensed movement all around him, quiet steps shifting sand, the low hum of machinery. His eyes fluttered open to a scene he could not yet understand. He lay on a stretcher made of a smooth silver-blue material that felt cool against his scorched uniform. Overhead, curved panels of light softened the air, giving the space an almost gentle glow. Figures in sleek armor knelt beside him. Their helmets reflected the faint luminescence of the room, and each carried a device that scanned his body with quiet beeps. Marcus tried to push himself up, but a wave of dizziness forced him back down. He closed his eyes, trying to steady his racing heart. When he opened his eyes again, he saw one of the figures lean closer. It had long, slender limbs and a graceful posture. A mask on its face concealed all but two bright blue eyes that watched him with concern. Marcus's hand drifted toward his sidearm, but his grip was too weak. He realized he held only a fragment of his gun. The rest had fallen away, in the desert. His heart beat faster. He dared not move. One of the figures spoke in a soft, musical voice. The sound was strange and lovely, but he did not understand a word. Then another figure held out a small device that glowed with pale green symbols. A quiet click sounded, and Marcus felt a gentle buzz in his ear. The music of alien words resolved into clear human speech. "He is alive," said a calm voice. "Let us take him to the ship." Hands steadied him as they lifted the stretcher. Though their arms were unlike human arms, their hold was firm and careful. They wheeled him through a corridor that curved and twisted like a spiral shell. Smooth, walls glinted and soft lights guided their path. Marcus tried to speak, but his voice came out as a whisper. "Why? Help me?" He managed only a soft rasp. Another click from the device restored his hearing. The musical voice returned, now crystal clear. "Because you were abandoned." A taller figure stepped forward, its 8 limbs moving in a calm, confident dance. At its side gleamed an emblem he did not recognize, a circle of interlocking crescents. The figure removed its helmet, revealing skin like polished moonstone and hair that shimmered silver. Its blue eyes held neither anger nor pity, but something Marcus could not name. They entered a larger chamber where a vessel hovered in midair, a sleek ship with curves that reminded him of a crescent moon. The aliens carried him through an open hatch into its interior. The air inside was cool and breathable. Marcus felt a rush of relief. These beings had not brought him to die, but to live. They placed him on a padded bed in a bright medical bay, filled with humming instruments and softly glowing panels. At the center of the room stood the alien who had spoken. She wore a white robe that fell in smooth folds, and around her neck hung a pendant that pulsed with gentle light. She moved with slow grace as she approached Marcus's stretcher. He saw the device in her hand, a scanner that traced lines of light over his torn uniform and pale, sweat-coated skin. He closed his eyes at the touch of its beam, expecting pain, but felt only a soothing warmth. When the scan finished, she set the device aside and reached for a small vial of clear liquid. With careful precision, she cleaned the edges of his wound. The cool fluid stung only briefly. Every movement was gentle, measured by a hand that seemed to understand every tremor of fear in his body. She spoke softly into the translator. "Your wound is deep, but not mortal. Rest now." Marcus felt the tension in his chest ease for the first time in hours. She offered him a cup of water. Marcus accepted, his fingers brushing against hers. He brought the cup to his lips and drank gratefully, feeling hydration spread warmth through his dry throat. He tried to speak again, his voice stronger. "Thank you." The translator carried his words back to her, and she inclined her head, eyes full of calm reassurance. A gentle hum filled the bay as machines regulated his life signs, pulse, temperature, oxygen levels, all flashing within normal range. The alien doctor adjusted a soft strap across his arm, then stepped back. "You will recover," she said. "You are safe." Marcus closed his eyes, comforted by the steady hum and the soft glow of the pendant around her neck. As he drifted into twilight sleep, he felt the ship shudder as it lifted from the desert world. Outside the bay's window, dunes rolled away beneath the ship's soft engines. He was no longer alone on Veskar 2. He was aboard a vessel that moved with purpose across the stars. And though he did not yet know their intentions, he trusted the gentle strength of the alien woman who had saved him. Captain Marcus Hale surrendered to exhaustion, a cautious hope blossoming in his chest. He had expected no reward for survival, only silence and loneliness among the dunes. Instead, he had found compassion in a place he never imagined, and it changed everything. Captain Marcus Hale awoke to the soft hum of the ship's engines and pale light filtering through a curved window. His head felt heavy, but the pain in his side had eased. He sat up slowly, testing his strength. The white robe of the alien doctor, Serel, lay on a nearby table beside a tray of fresh linens and a bowl of pale blue fruit. The cool air smelled faintly of ozone and something floral. Serel entered quietly. Her 8 arms moved in a practiced rhythm as she folded the robe and placed it neatly on the bed's edge. When she saw that Marcus was awake, she inclined her head in greeting. He tried to rise, but she placed a gentle hand on his shoulder, guiding him back down. "Rest," she said through the translator. "Your body needs time." He nodded, though he already felt more rested than he had in days. His eyes roamed the room. Smooth walls curved seamlessly into the ceiling, panels of light glowing like morning mist. A window showed the blackness of space and distant stars. He pressed his hand to his bandaged side and remembered the desert, sands of Veskar 2, the glowing footprints, and Serel's calm face. Hours later, Marcus was led from the medical bay into a broader chamber. It served as both dining hall and meeting space. Long tables of polished stone stretched under lights that mimicked daylight. Serel motioned for him to sit at the far end, beside 2 other Alari officers. Marcus's uniform felt stiff and dusty compared to their smooth robes. A waiter approached, bearing a shallow bowl of steaming broth. The aroma was unfamiliar, sweet, faintly tangy. He dipped a spoon in and tasted it. It warmed his throat and filled him with a gentle strength. He sipped slowly, watching his hosts. Around him, Alari spoke in soft, rapid phrases. Their voices rose and fell in a musical pattern. Every so often, they paused to make a delicate hand gesture or touch 2 fingertips lightly together. Serel noticed Marcus's curiosity. "They greet with the talon touch," she explained. She raised 2 slender fingers and pressed their tips together, then extended them toward him. "It means respect and trust. You may respond with the same." Marcus nodded and imitated her as best he could. He felt foolish as his grip faltered, but the nearby officers inclined their heads in approval. Serel offered him a small smile. Dinner continued, and the conversation turned to the war. Holographic maps glowed above the table, showing front lines in green and red. Alari voices grew more serious as they discussed strategy. Marcus followed along, though many details escaped him. When one officer spoke of the sacred world of Terethia, Marcus bowed his head in a sign of deference, recalling Serel's lesson. After the meal, Sorel guided Marcus through the ship's corridors. At each turn, he marveled at the curved architecture and soft lights. He spotted small gardens of glowing fungi and gentle pools of water where Aelari paused to touch the surface. The effect was serene, almost holy. They reached a larger chamber where Sorel asked Marcus to remove his boots. He hesitated. On Earth, shoes were a sign of readiness. She gestured politely to take them off. He complied, placing them carefully on a rack. She smiled and pressed her hand to her chest in thanks. "Here," she said, leading him forward. The floor was covered in a soft green moss that felt warm under his bare feet. He inhaled deeply and felt a calm settle in his lungs. "This is the Hall of Reflection," Sorel explained. "We walk barefoot to feel our connection to the ship. It reminds us we move through the galaxy, not above it." Marcus nodded, though he still felt awkward. He followed her steps, careful not to stumble. The hall ended at a window that looked down on a glowing core of crystal and metal. Energy pulsed through veins of light, powering the ship. It was beautiful in its simplicity. As they turned to leave, Marcus tried to wrap his mind around all he had learned. But the peace was broken when he strode into a small gathering of high-ranking officers. They stood in a circle, arms crossed in ways that to Marcus looked like a defensive posture. He realized too late that in Aelari culture, crossed arms meant disrespect or suspicion. One officer's eyes narrowed. She spoke a few words sharply. Sorel's face went tense, and she stepped forward, guiding Marcus's arm down and showing him the correct posture. Hands folded at the waist, palms up. Marcus tried to adjust, but his shoulders were stiff. The officer leveled a pointed gaze at him and repeated her words through the translator. "Honor our customs." Marcus bowed deeply, folding his hands as instructed. "I apologize," he said. "I did not understand." Sorel placed a reassuring hand on his back. "He is learning," she said gently. The officer's eyes softened and she inclined her head. The tension eased. Later that evening, Marcus stood alone by a viewport. Stars streaked past as the ship sped through space. Sorel joined him and stood quietly. He looked at her, searching for reassurance. "Thank you for guiding me," he said. "I know I make mistakes." She smiled and raised her fingers in the talon touch again. Marcus returned the gesture more confidently this time. Her blue eyes seemed to glow in the dim light. "You learn quickly," she replied. "In time, you will walk as one of us." Marcus nodded, a mixture of relief and determination filling him. He realized that understanding her people would be as important as any strategy or weapon. Only then could he repay the gift she had given him, his life. As the ship slipped through the darkness, man and alien stood side by side, each learning the subtle language of the other. And in that silent moment, the seeds of true alliance were planted, one born of necessity, and one that might grow into something neither had anticipated. The Celestara glided through the silent stars, its hull humming with soft power. Below deck, Captain Marcus Hale stood before a group of Aelari Marines in the ship's training bay, a vast chamber lined with smooth panels and lit by cool white light. The soldiers wore light armor that gleamed like polished pearl, each carrying an unfamiliar rifle. Marcus checked his own gear, a human combat vest patched and worn, his sidearm holstered at his hip. "First," he began, voice steady, "we learn to move as one." He demonstrated a low crouch, feet shoulder-width apart, body weight forward. The Aelari watched his simple posture, then mirrored the move. At first, their 8 arms wavered in unison, but they soon found balance. Marcus smiled. "Good. Now we advance." He led them through drills, stepping quietly, aiming with precision, working in pairs to cover each other's flanks. The Aelari adapted quickly, their long limbs granting them surprising speed. Marcus felt a surge of pride. These were not the silent killers he had feared. They were learners eager to defend their people. Meanwhile, in the ship's reactor chamber, Sorel stood before a lattice of glowing crystal and metal. The reactor's energy flowed through veins of light that pulsed in time with the ship's life. She tapped a panel of controls, isolating the outer shields. Then, with Marcus's encouragement, she began integrating human field coil emitters. Simple devices designed to scatter energy blasts into the Alari shield matrix. As the first test, the crew fired a light energy charge at the shields. The impact rippled across the hull in violet waves. Sorel adjusted the coil's frequency. The next blast shimmered harmlessly off the hull. She let out a soft breath of relief. Marcus, observing through a viewport, gave her a thumbs up. That evening, the Celestara alerted the bridge to an unexpected contact. An unregistered freighter closed in fast, its guns visible even from a distance. Pirates. Marcus's heart clenched. His squad had been ambushed just like this. He hurried to the bridge where Sorel and the Alari captain Valur awaited. "Pirate vessel, closing to attack range," reported the nav officer. The bridge lights dimmed as tactical grids flickered to life. Behind the view screen, the pirate ship loomed, battered hull, gun turrets bristling. Valur's many-faced mask was still, but his posture stiffened with resolve. Marcus stepped forward. "We need to buy time for our shields. If they hit us before full power, we could lose the reactor." Valur inclined his head. "Your tactics, Captain Hale?" he asked, voice calm in the translator. Marcus took a breath. "We stage a feint. 2 squads distract them at the port guns while another team reroutes shield power. Then we counter-strike at their weapon arrays, quick and precise." Valur considered this, then turned to his officers. "Implement." Within minutes, Marines raced to battle stations. The Celestara shuddered as the pirate ship opened fire. Energy bolts arced toward them, but Sorel's shield modifications held firm. The violet ripples rolled across the hull, muffling the worst of the assault. Marcus led the port gun squad. With Sorel's quick adaptation of the target tracker, the Alari Marines locked onto the pirates' gun turrets. Marcus fired the first shot, and the grenade-like round arced beautifully into the enemy hull, disabling a forward cannon. The Marines cheered, their voices clear over the comm dot on the other side. A team rerouted reactor power to the shields. Sorel monitored the readings, calling out adjustments to keep the pulse stable. Sparks danced across her console when a stray bolt grazed the outer plating, but she did not flinch. Marcus saw admiration in Valur's eyes. With the port guns silenced, Marcus signaled the counterstrike team. They targeted the missile racks and flight doors, cutting off the pirates' ability to board. Explosions rippled down the enemy hull, like falling fireworks. The pirate ship veered away, engines dying as Marcus's squad pressed home the attack. Within moments, the vessel lay drifting, weapons offline. Silence returned. Alarms faded. The bridge crew exhaled as one. Valur stood, turning to Marcus and Sorel. "Your tactics saved us," he said, "and your allies' skill with our shields proved invaluable." Marcus nodded, flush with relief and pride. He glanced at Sorel, whose forearms wrapped in her robe's folds, eyes shining softly. She inclined her head, acknowledging the praise. Marcus realized their teamwork had bridged not just 2 species but 2 ways of thinking, human grit and Alari grace. Later, in the ship's observation lounge, Marcus and Sorel stood side by side. The pirate freighter drifted beyond view, a silent testament to their collective strength. Marcus watched Sorel's 8-limbed silhouette illuminated by starlight. "You made the shield stronger," he said. She shrugged modestly. "Your tactics gave me new perspective. We learned from each other." He smiled. "I never thought I'd train Marines again after Veskar 2, or that I'd fight alongside you." She reached out with 2 hands, the Alari talon touch. Marcus returned the gesture. He had mastered it now. Their fingers met, a silent seal of trust. Above them, stars wheeled in slow arcs. Below deck, the ship's heart pulsed steadily. In the hush of space, 2 warriors, 1 human, 1 Alari, stood, united against the darkness. Their silent alliance was born of necessity, but it had become something more, a bond that neither battle nor distance could break. The morning light in the Celestara's corridor was cool and gentle, but Captain Marcus Hale felt its chill in his bones. He walked beside Sorel toward the command deck discussing tomorrow's peace mission. They spoke quietly, reviewing maps and Ilari protocol, when sensors pinged an unexpected alert. A hidden signal, one that only a trained human mind could detect, had been activated within the ship's secure network. Within minutes, they reached the command deck. Valur, the Ilari captain, stood at the center, 8 arms folded. Marcus noticed a human figure in plain uniform standing near the tactical console, her badge unfamiliar. She moved with measured calm, but the hand resting on her holstered sidearm betrayed her tension. Before Marcus could speak, the woman's voice crackled over the comm. All personnel to secure stations. Captain Hale is now a prisoner of the Human Directorate. Any resistance will be met with force. A hush fell. Sorel's multiple eyes narrowed. Marcus stepped forward. "I'm still your ally," he said firmly. "Explain yourself." The officer's lips curved in a polite mask. "I regret this, Captain," she replied, "but the Directorate believes you were captured by the enemy. You must be returned. For debriefing and trial," Valor hissed in the Aelari tongue, confusion and anger rippling across his many faces. He turned to Sorel, who pulled Marcus gently back. Her voice was calm in the translator. "He is under my protection. We owe him his life." The officer lifted her chin. "Protection ends now. I have orders to bring him back." She pressed a button on her console, and the deck doors slid shut. Tactical weapons hummed to life behind every officer on duty. Marcus realized they were surrounded. Sorel raised her arms in a pleading gesture. "Our peace mission depends on Captain Hale's trust," she said. "If you take him, you destroy that trust and you risk war." The officer's eyes flicked to Valur. "I serve humanity first," she said. "The Directorate fears the Aelari will gain too much influence." Valur's posture straightened. He spoke in measured tones to the officer. "Your government's fear nearly cost us Captain Hale's life. We saved him. Now you threaten our alliance." The Aelari crew tensed, their weapons still trained on Marcus. The officer glanced at her datapad, then steeled herself. "I will not hesitate," she said. "Captain Marcus Hale, step away from these aliens. You are under arrest." Marcus knew he had only seconds to act. He raised his hands, palms open, and spoke loudly so every officer heard. "I volunteer to come quietly, but only if Sorel comes with me. She saved my life. She is my witness." The officer's brow furrowed. "That is not authorized." Sorel stepped forward, her 8 arms spread wide in a gesture of peace. "I choose to testify," she said. "I will go with him." Her voice was steady, but Marcus saw concern in her glowing eyes. Valur's captain mask lowered, showing a hint of sorrow. He turned to his officers and spoke in Aelari. "Lower weapons." Those words clicked through the translators. Slowly, the Chitin Ayu weapons powered down. The tension in the room eased, though the officer's holster still glinted. Valur faced the officer. "We respect humans," he said, "but we demand respect in return. This ship operates under a joint flag until the peace is secure." The officer looked between Valur and Sorel, weighing her orders against the fragile truce she had hoped to build. Finally, she nodded curtly. "Very well. I will accompany you on this peace mission, but upon arrival, I will take you both into custody." A collective sigh rose from the Aelari crew. Marcus exhaled. He lowered his hands and stepped beside Sorel. "Thank you," he whispered. The officer pressed a hollow key to the console. The doors slid open. She turned to Marcus and Sorel, her face unreadable. "Follow me," she said, voice echoing. In the hush, as they passed through the deck doors, Marcus placed a hand on Sorel's arm. "Are you all right?" he asked softly. She glanced at him and nodded. "I will be," she said. "We have faced greater dangers than this." Together, they walked down the corridor, human, Ailari, and the human officer, all bound by uneasy cooperation. The ship's engines hummed beneath their feet, carrying them toward a fate that none could predict. A peace mission fraught with hidden agendas, where loyalty would be tested and betrayal might yet be repeated. And through it all, Marcus and Sarel would stand side by side, determined to protect the fragile alliance they had forged in the desert sands of Veskar II. The derelict station hovered in silent orbit around a dead moon, its hull streaked with rust and old burn marks. Captain Marcus Hale, Sarel, and the human officer, Lieutenant Dana Reyes, crept through the narrow corridors. The station's lights flickered, casting long shadows that danced on metal walls. Every step echoed in the emptiness. Marcus held a small scanning device. "This is the entrance to the comms hub," he whispered. "If we can tap into their network, we find the mole list." Sarel's forearms adjusted the simple translator on Marcus's collar. "I see patrol patterns ahead," she murmured. "We move when their lights pass." Her voice was soft, but Marcus felt its strength. They pressed themselves against the wall as a pair of pirate drones floated by, their sensors sweeping. Marcus counted the seconds until they passed, then led the way into a side door marked security. The lock panel glowed red. He knelt to pick it, his fingers steady despite the tension. In moments, the panel turned green, and the door slid, open with a hiss. Inside, the room was lined with data racks and dim control consoles. Dust covered everything. Marcus connected a data leech device to a port. "Give me 2 minutes," he said. The leech hummed as it copied encrypted files. Sarel scanned the floor for traps. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dark. "No alarms? Have been tripped," she reported. "We are safe for now." Lieutenant Reyes stood guard at the door, her rifle raised. Marcus worked quickly, then withdrew the leech. "Got it," he said. "Let's go." They retraced their steps until they reached a junction. There, a lone pirate guard blocked the hall. His armor was dented, and his eyes were wary. He lifted, his weapon without a word. Marcus raised his hands. "We are on peace business," he said firmly. The guard hesitated, but Reyes's presence beside them gave weight to his orders. He lowered his gun and stepped aside. "Must report," he muttered. They hurried past and entered a larger chamber lined with holoprojectors. Marcus plugged in the data leech to his portable console. Streams of code scrolled in green. Sarel knelt beside him, her extra arm steadying the console. "Start decryption," she instructed. Her eyes danced over lines of code. "They use a simple key. This might take a minute." Lieutenant Reyes paced at the door, listening. Outside, distant clangs and muffled voices hinted at routine station duties. The station was deserted of friendly crews. Only pirates roamed its halls. As the console beeped, Marcus and Sarel exchanged a glance. They had saved each other's lives more than once. In the glow of the projector, their faces looked closer, more human. Marcus felt his heart beat faster. He touched Sarel's hand. "Thank you for being here." She smiled softly. "I owe you my life," she replied. Her forearms gently folded in front of her. The console beeped again. "Decryption complete," Sarel announced. Marcus reviewed the list. Names of agents, their ship IDs, and locations. At the bottom was one that made his blood run cold. Lieutenant Reyes herself. Marcus stared. "Dana?" Sarel read the entry. "She is listed as the coordinator," she said softly. She arranged the smuggling of weapons to both sides. The door behind them groaned. Reyes stepped in, weapon lowered but grip firm. "You found out," she said. Her voice trembled. "I had no choice. The directorate threatened my family if I did not cooperate." Marcus clenched his jaw. "You betrayed us," he said. Reyes's eyes filled with tears. "I never wanted war, but they left me no choice." She lifted her rifle. "I'm sorry." Sarel moved in front of Marcus. "Lower your weapon," she said calmly. "We do not kill criminals without trial." Reyes hesitated. Her gaze flickered between Marcus and Sarel, Then she lowered the rifle. "What now?" she asked. Marcus took a breath. "We bring you home," he said, "to face your trial." He turned to Sorel. "Secure her in the brig?" Sorel nodded and placed a gentle hand on Reyes's arm. With a soft glow from her palms, she wove a containment field around Reyes's wrists. The device pulsed and Reyes's rifle floated out of reach. As they walked back through the station, the weight of betrayal hung heavy. Yet Marcus felt Sorel beside him, steady, unwavering. He realized that no matter how different their worlds, they shared a code of honor. Back on the Celestara, Reyes sat in the brig compartment. Marcus and Sorel stood outside the reinforced door. The stars shone through the viewport behind them. Marcus spoke first. "I'm sorry it had to be you," he said softly. Reyes looked up, her eyes tired. "I know." Sorel placed 2 fingers over her heart. "We will see justice done," she promised. Marcus and Sorel walked to the observation deck. The void of space stretched before them. The cool blue glow of distant nebulae reminded Marcus of home. He glanced at Sorel. "Do you think peace is still possible?" She touched his arm. "We have undone a great betrayal. We can build trust again." Her voice was calm as water. Marcus nodded, feeling hope. In that moment he saw not just an alien beside him, but a true partner. Their bond had deepened in the shadow of betrayal, and now they faced the future together. 2 hearts from different worlds, forging a path toward lasting peace. The peace conference chamber glowed with soft light. Tall windows looked out on a pale blue sky of Veskar 2. Delegates from human worlds and Alari systems filled seats along curved tables. Captain Marcus Hale stood beside Sorel at a central podium. Between them lay the evidence they had gathered: data files, translated logs, and captured recordings of the Directorate's covert plans. Marcus cleared his throat. "Honored delegates," he began. His voice carried across the silence. "We are here not as conquerors but as partners. We come bearing proof that agents on both sides sought to destroy this peace." He passed a data crystal to the lead, human ambassador. The ambassador's eyes widened as she reviewed the files. Sorel spoke next, her voice calm and clear through the translator. "These records show that our joint efforts exposed a network of warmongers who hoped to restart the war. Let this be the last time fear divides our peoples." A murmur rose from the delegates. The Alari Captain Valor stepped forward and placed a holomap on the podium. Lines of red and green flickered, showing old battle zones now marked in neutral, gray. "With this new understanding," he said, "we can rebuild the world together." Human and Alari delegates exchanged nods. The human ambassador turned to Marcus and Sorel. "Your courage saved countless lives," she said. "We are prepared to sign the Treaty of Veskar 2. A long table descended between them. Marcus and Sorel placed their hands on the treaty scroll. With a solemn gesture, each delegate signed their name. When the final signature glowed into place, soft chimes rang through the chamber. The crowd broke into honored applause. Later, outside the conference hall, Marcus and Sorel walked along a marble terrace. The desert sun warmed their faces. Soldiers and diplomats mingled, sharing news of rebuilding efforts. In the distance, Alari and human engineers worked side by side, erecting a statue of 2 hands clasped, one human, one Alari, above one of the city gates. Sorel paused and looked at Marcus. "You did well," she said softly. "You honored your word," Marcus smiled, though his heart felt full. "I could not have done it without you." He reached into a pouch at his belt and withdrew a small crystal pendant. Its facets glowed with pale blue light. "As our people do," he said, "I ask you to accept this bond." Sorel's silver eyes widened. She stepped closer, her many arms drawing in the folds of her robe. "This is the symbol of a life bond," she explained. "It ties 2 souls in trust and respect." Marcus held the pendant out. "Will you accept it?" She placed her hand beneath his and let him place the crystal on her palm. It pulsed once, softly, as if waking. Sorel closed her extra hands around it. I accept, she replied. The translator carried her words. Light spiraled from the pendant, connecting them. Marcus felt a warmth spread through his chest. He knew this moment would never fade from his memory. That evening, a celebration lit the city's plaza. Lanterns floated above tables laden with foods from both cultures. Pale blue fruits, spiced bread, savory stews, and sweet honey cakes. Music rang out from human string instruments and Aelari chimes. Marcus and Cyril moved through the crowd, greeted by friends and allies alike. Children danced in circles, their laughter bright. A group of Aelari Marines performed a silent drill, each motion precise and graceful. Nearby, human soldiers demonstrated a playful mock sparring match, earning cheers from the onlookers. Everywhere, people smiled. At the edge of the plaza, Marcus spotted Lieutenant Dana Reyes, free now after her trial. She offered him a respectful salute and a small nod of thanks. He returned the salute, glad that justice had been served. Cyril caught Marcus's arm and guided him to a raised platform. They wish to honor you, she said. A hush fell as an elder human statesman began to speak. Captain Marcus Hale and Dr. Cyril have shown us that hope can conquer fear. On behalf of all peoples, we name them guardians of the peace. A ring of light formed around Marcus and Cyril as they received two small badges, one in the shape of an eagle, the other a crescent moon. They pinned the badges on each other's robes and uniform. The crowd applauded, and firework-like blossoms of light arced across the sky. Marcus looked at Cyril. We made history today. She smiled and raised two fingers in the talon touch. Marcus returned the gesture. And we will build tomorrow together, she replied. As the festivities continued, Marcus thought back to the dunes of Veskar II, where he had first met glowing footprints and faced death alone. Now he stood embraced by two worlds, honored not just as a soldier but as a bridge between peoples. Under the twin moons rising above the desert, human and Aelari celebrated a new dawn. And for Captain Marcus Hale and Dr. Cyril, the greatest reward was a bond that would guide both species toward a future of peace and unity.